Good to see you, man.
Great day. Enjoy this beautiful weather.
All right. Do a little weekly vlog here from my Club 129 people. Thank you guys. And I'm trying this sort of side of the head camera mount here. See if it shows up. I may need to aim it down some. It looks about right. I might raise my seat up a little bit though to make sure we can. The camera lens is just below my eye line, where my eyeballs are. I don't know what you call it. So I'm driving this loaner Boxster GTS stick shift. My car, the Cayman Spicy V-Dub. Cayman's in the shop for a ECU issue. It was popping up some messages on the screen, and just went ahead and took it in, and Harper Porsche over in Knoxville taking care of me. He was like, well, all we've got for a loaner is a Boxster manual stick shift. And I was like, okay. I just thought it'd be like some base model, you know, stripped down Boxster. But then they pulled it around. I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. And then I went out and looked, and it's a GTS model, which is a step above our Cayman as far as the model hierarchy goes with Porsche. You get the base model, and then the S model is a little bit bigger motor, bigger turbo, which is what we have, the Cayman. And then the GTS is same motor but slightly bigger turbo, like 15 more horsepower. But it usually has some better performance options for suspension and stuff like that. And that's what this is, the GTS Boxster convertible version of the Cayman. And then there's the GT4 Cayman, which is the flat six, you know, pretty high performance, level 4 or 5. And they just recently, you know, released the GT4 RS, which has the bigger flat six and 500 horsepower and a little bitty car. It's pretty wild. That one's highly sought after. But yeah, I thought it'd be cool just every week to do a little, you know, vlog video, kind of help, again, drive home memorizing the road. We're in the, you know, the straighter section. We're still coming up on mile marker 1 here, so we just came across the state line, and kind of show you guys what's going on out here every weekend. This is Friday, what is it, almost 3 o'clock, and I'm running over to 129 Hub to drop off a video player for them to have some fresh content on their screen this week, or this year, this season. And it's early March, but we've had nicer weekends in February. It's a little bit chilly today. It's like 50-ish, so there's not many bikes out or many people out in general, being a Friday, I guess, anyway, early in the season. There's not a lot of traffic, and you can see what it looks like is the sun is, you know, skies are almost completely blue. There's a little bit of cloud presence in the sky, but weather cleared up really nice. Today was calling to be a rainy day to an extent, but the forecast was mostly concerning this morning. Earlier in the morning, we did get some rain and some heavier cloud coverage, but cleared out and turned out to be a pretty nice day. This little double apex here. It's gotten rough on the inside. There's a little bit of pull off right there for like one car. And we're passing mile marker 2. This sort of long double apex here kind of straightens out for a second and then goes back to the right again. Then we start kind of downhill, going past Sunset. Which this turn coming the other direction late in the day is blinding. Get a lot of sunlight there coming straight into the face. Good for photos. Sucks as an operator of a motor vehicle. Bristol turn now, very banked, high bank turn there. So this car is, it's a 2018 model, and of course it's a Porsche loaner vehicle. I think it's for sale. I saw a, man, the road's rough right there. I saw a used car sale paper that they normally stick on the windows, you know, and as such, of course, it's all, you know, factory exhaust and suspension and everything. Works good. It's got the active suspension that ours did not come with. It's kind of weird how they how cars are optioned sometimes. Like this one's got sort of a mix, got like a dichotomy of higher end options and lower end options. So it's got like manual seats, maybe a weight savings thing, I guess. And they feel good. They've got nice bolstering, feel nice. But it is cool to have that memory power seat option that our car has, where when Lori gets in it, she pushes her button and the seat goes to right where she wants it. And same for me. And whereas in this one, you kind of have to manually slide and move everything. That car is still sitting there. Everything's been there for like a week. Hood's popped. Surprised it's still got windows in it. Mile marker 4, that's Parsons Branch. But yeah, it's got Alcantara steering, you know, finish on the steering wheel, the shifter, the shift boot, some of the door panel material is Alcantara, but then in other places like the dash, it's just like rubbery plastic. I don't know if Alcantara is an option for the dash. I can't remember. It seems like it is, especially on the higher, you know, the 911s and stuff. I don't know about these. Back at this time that it was manufactured, maybe that wasn't, but at least a leather dash, I'm pretty sure is an option. That'd be nice. It's weird. I didn't really experience it until this car, but I don't like an Alcantara shift boot cover for some reason. Just seems weird. Like, I'd rather just be a leather cover. And then the surfaces of the shift knob and the steering wheel where you touch them, that Alcantara, it's just like, you know, synthetic suede, man-made suede. It feels really good when it's new and clean, but it also loads up kind of gross with body oils and stuff, and so it gets kind of shiny and slick, and it's no longer has that nice grippy, cushy feeling. It just feels like sort of hard leather or something. But I know it's not. I know it's probably bodily, you know, oils and things like that, and it can be cleaned apparently. Like I've seen, I don't know if you want to like scrub on it with anything too mechanical, like a wire brush or anything. I think you can like strip that stuff off, so you don't want to get too crazy. But I've seen some like dry ice videos from detailing shops, where they hit the Alcantara that's kind of gotten grimy, and it takes it back to fresh. They're just blasting it with dry ice. Really cool process. There's a local shop in Knoxville that's got that system in, and I've seen a couple of videos. It was really cool. If I was keeping this car, buying it used or something, I would definitely take it over there to them and have that done, just to make it all, at least if it's going to have bodily oils on it, they're going to be mine. Come on. Man, it's chilly out there. What's the temperature? It says 61 on the, man, the air just feels cold. I don't know, there's something about it. It's like north wind or whatever. I don't know how that doesn't affect the temperature, you know, reading on a thermostat, but there's definitely a difference between when there's a north wind and a south wind. Thanks, Ted. That's our buddy Ted that sells the helmets and detailing products down at the store. He's got a really cool new formula for the Dragon Shine stuff, so shout out and plug his business. Check him out when you come into the area, or find him online at 129products.com. And he's got some really good detailing products that work well, make things slick. Coming up past the mud turn now, where there's kind of a muddy wall and mud on the inside of that turn right there. A little scenic turn action. And now we go into 2 square. So these are a pair of switchbacks that are really tight, so don't let them catch you out. Gotta slow it down here. Hard right, hard left. The exit is a little tricky on this. Don't let it get you. Keep some in reserve there. I'm just cruising in 3rd gear. This thing's got a pretty torquey little, you know, turbo setup. It's a 2.5 with a little bit bigger turbo than ours, and it's a little bit more laggy, but it also makes another, I don't know, pound or 2 of boost at the top end, where ours sorts of peter out. Up on radar. Kind of a dirty turn, especially if you're on a motorcycle. Be careful here. It's like the pavement is sort of deteriorating there, and there's little pieces of pebble scattered around. Blind cresting turn. Scenic overlook. So here's where in a car, if you've been getting your brakes kind of heated up, we would start easing up and try not to use the brakes. Just let the engine deceleration kind of slow you down. Mile marker 8, so we're about 7/10 of a mile from the overlook. I'm not going to stop at it today unless there's some significant reason to stop. Local parking. Here we pass by the reminder that the speed limit is 30, and wow, this sign is really getting blown around some, and this is a pedestrian area ahead, so chill out through here. There's a pull off on the right here that you can't even see, which means they can't see you. So it's a tricky place to pull out from, and you don't want to come through here hauling the mail. And then somebody's pulling out, or there's kids walking across the street, stuff like that. There's a lot of activity and pedestrians and things like that, dogs, kids in that spot there. So don't be trying to impress anybody with your mad high-speed skills. So we're going on downhill now towards the lakes. Right here's mile marker 9. Again, this section is not as popular. Most people turn around at the overlook. Just has a different flow to it. There's some real bad bumps right there on the right. This car has auto rev matching on the downshifting. If you push the clutch in and move the shifter down to the lower gear, it'll automatically rev the engine for you. I think that's something you might be able to, I don't know if you can turn that off on this car. On some cars it's optional thing. I never was really good at being able to use my right foot to brake and rev the throttle at the same time. So I'm okay with that, but I know some people call it cheating or grumble about it or whatever. But I kind of appreciate it because it saves me the dancing around sometimes when I'm trying to just focus on braking and turning as smoothly as I can. I gotta say though, I don't miss the stick shift transmissions. We still have several cars with manual transmissions, manual gearbox, but I find myself still grabbing for a paddle on this thing. It's so similar inside to our Cayman. It's easy to forget that you're not in one. I'm not in my normal car, and I catch myself reaching for a paddle once in a while. I actually was the second day that I had it. I haven't driven a manual in so long, really. Well, I've taken a couple of the cars out to just to get them warmed up, put some heat into the oil and our manual cars and just keep them sort of fresh while they're not being driven very much. But driving one to the point that you kind of get relaxed enough to forget, I forgot that I was in this car. I thought I was in my Cayman, and we were coming up to a red light, and I was actually behind a state trooper as we approached this red light, and the car started vibrating like I was driving over some kind of like humps or something. Oh, we're getting crazy radar. Oh. Speaking of state troopers. But yeah, the car started vibrating and shuddering, and before I could realize it, I'd come to a stop pretty much and stalled the motor on this thing before I slapped the clutch down. And then when I did push the clutch down, it automatically restarted. So that was kind of cool. So it does have an auto restart if you stall it. I don't know. I know that I want to say the Focus RS did that as well. And I think that it would also add revs if you were pulling away from a dead stop and you just started letting the clutch out without giving it any gas. It would sense that the RPMs were starting to drop below normal, and it would give it more gas. And so you, as long as you weren't too aggressive with your clutch dump from an idle, sitting still, you could just let the clutch out and the car would pull away. You didn't even have to give it any gas. And it would also do the restart if it did stall. You know, it automatically just start back up. So they got some cool toys. So it's a really good car to probably learn to drive in, but at the same time, that's a pretty rowdy car to stick somebody in that doesn't have a lot of experience driving. Easy car to drive, the Focus RS. I like that. I spent a couple of weeks with my friend Sharif's up here, just thrashing on in the mountains and everything. Still felt like a front wheel drive car. It really wanted to, like, at the limits, wanted to pull the steering wheel around and really made you work your arms a lot. We'll set the suspension to soft here. Absorb those bridge joints a little bit. They have it's a pretty rough transition to that bridge, from the pavement to the concrete and then back down to the pavement. It's almost like an elevated bridge by about freaking 4 inches. So they've built some asphalt up into sort of a ramp, but it's not real long, obviously, so it's still pretty aggressive. At least it's not a step up. Going past Foothills Parkway entrance here. This was closed there a couple weeks ago for a little bit of bad weather that we had, some snow and ice stuff, but it's back open now. They usually just do that for like short-term durations whenever there's some bad weather, just to keep people from getting up there and getting unexpected, you know, traction conditions that catch some tourists off guard. This car is so quiet, even in sport mode where it opens the valve up and turns the engine tuning to a more aggressive rumble. It's still so quiet that even right now, like, I'm not playing any music or don't have the windows down or anything to keep the audio kind of clean for this recording. But if I'm driving around with the music up or the windows cracked or down or the top down, you really can't hardly hear the exhaust. So I'm a lot of times catch myself, I'm going 70 miles an hour in fourth gear, like, oh yeah, because it's pretty quiet. They really over muffle their cars. Porsche, it kills me because they can sound really good, but they get pretty bashed by a lot of enthusiasts by how they don't sound good. It's a shame. These cars, I don't know what it is about the stock exhaust, but it really hides the Boxster nature of the engine, the flat four, because it does have an unequal length header like a Subaru, well, like a lot of Subarus, maybe not all, but the turbo's off to the side, so the pulses from one side of the engine have to travel a long distance, and on the other side of the engine they're short, and so it gives you this sort of thumpy, rumbly sound. But something about the way the exhaust is tuned on these cars, it tunes that out, and it sounds very generic. It almost sounds like a race car on a video game that didn't get the license to use the actual cars. You know how they make those generic cars and generic sounds? So it just has this sort of one, you know, there's nothing real special about it, and it's a shame because it is a pretty impressive motor. They make a lot of torque, a lot of power for their size. They're super low in the car, so the center of gravity is low. But it just sounds like ass from the factory. And you put an exhaust on them, and it's like, oh, there it is. That's what it should have been. And then when I say put an exhaust, I mean basically remove the mufflers. The exhaust on ours is just straight pipe. You could put, okay, if that's a little too rowdy, I get it. You know, you could put maybe an exhaust system on it with some light muffling capabilities, and it would still sound very decent. And when you put it in, you know, this little wheel, this little knob on the steering wheel, when you put it in normal mode, it closes the valve in the exhaust, and that helps some. I get that, but the big thing is it changes the valve timing in the engine so that it's a lot smoother and quieter. And so yeah, even with our straight pipe exhaust, I still have a catalytic converter, still have the turbo, you know, killing a lot of the noise. And so it's very tame at normal cruising speeds. If I put it in normal mode, it's barely audible, but it sounds so much better when you get on the gas and deceleration and shifting gears, especially when it's in sport mode and sport plus, where it opens up the valving, it opens up the timing in the engine to really make it more rowdy sounding. Yeah, it's a much better experience driving the car with open exhaust, in my opinion. And it's not drony. You can, to me, you know, you can cruise along, and my wife and I both really like the way it sounds. Even on long highway drives, it's totally fine. So we're behind a cattle trailer that I saw it go up the hill when I was at the store, and it has some livestock in the trailer, and that can cause, what do you call it, bio waste, let's say, putting it nicely, to fall out of the trailer and get on the ground. And that could have been a contributing factor in my last wreck like 10 years ago on a sport bike. I slid, the front end slid out, I went down, and I didn't really understand why. It wasn't really anywhere near to what I would consider to be the limits. But then come to find out that a cattle trailer had gone through not long before I did, and so maybe I hit some urine on the road, or so. I didn't see any like feces or anything. There's mile marker 20, so we're 20 miles right here where we turn away from the lakes. Is 20 miles from the state line, just for reference, for like any kind of emergency medical needs that you may have or something like that. You know, that's the mile marker for that location there. This little section right here, this little wavy section, it's pretty fun if you're not obviously being held up. Sort of a weird warm-up precursor to the Dragon, and then you go through this little section, and then all of a sudden you're straight driving on the lakes for miles. That's, well, yeah, the lakes. So if it's 20 miles there, and Tabcat Bridge is 11, so it's 9 miles. Wow, it don't seem like it's that long. I would have guessed like, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles. But yeah, it's 9 miles from that 20-mile, you know, sign post that we just pointed out back to Tabcat Bridge, where you come off the Dragon and you hit the lakes and the water, and everything changes from curvy and foresty to straight and open. It's a little further than I thought it was. woods down through here. I think they all belong to like one owner. It was at one point this was all like up for sale. It was like 3,000 acres or some crazy number. Be really cool to see this get more developed and see Tennessee capitalize on the traffic a little more, but it's just one of those things. It's tough to run a business around tourism that's very seasonal like ours is. It's not constant like Pigeon Forge or something, you know, so it's hard to make it if you don't have a really good setup. All right, well, I'm gonna go see if I can drop something off here. Yeah, hope you enjoyed that. And I'll be making more next week. Thanks again, you guys, for supporting us. Till next time, peace.